Welcome back, guys. It's been a long summer break. My name's Alex. That's Eileen. This little guy is Don Pepe, and you're watching Straight to the Chicane Podcast. And we are back. We're in the Netherlands. It's the Dutch GP.
Mm-hmm. And it rained again.
Yes, that is now what I believe 8 weekends in a row, guys. 8 weekends in a row of rain, weather. We're really seeing it all right now.
Has it been 8 races?
I'm pretty sure 8 races.
It's been since Baku.
So that was before.
It was like the second race. It was like it was like the third race.
I don't know, guys. Are you guys rained out? I'm rained out. Are you rained out?
I'm rained out.
Okay.
I'm tired of the rain.
I don't know. I think it made for a very interesting race.
It did. Mother Nature really came through with some curveballs this weekend. She was bringing the heat. That's for sure.
Yes. And the elements, Mother Nature did not want Max to win through everything she had at him, and Max still came through this weekend.
Yeah, he was, they tried everything they could.
Yeah. So, guys, if you are new to this, this is a podcast where we talk about Formula One, and we talk directly about the weekend's race that has just happened. And we are back from our break again, like I said. It was a long break. Normally, during summer breaks, it's all a silly season stuff, and we have kind of a silly season going on, and you were waiting
I was so excited for silly season. I was like, oh my God, after last year, it's going to be like, there's going to be some fun. Yeah. It's going to get crazy.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Absolutely
nothing. It was radio silence. I mean, the drivers were off the grid. I mean, nothing.
Yep. I think they did a pretty good job of not really doing much for Formula One, and they kept to their word.
Yes. But the majority of the weird stuff happened going into the Belgium Grand Prix right before summer break. So it was like all of the head people at Alpine either quit or got fired or whatever. Ferrari, rumored Mattia to be coming to take over Alpine.
Sure.
Still no, they've got acting people in place for this, Grand Prix weekend.
But we were also waiting for some of the drivers' contracts. We're waiting on Lewis for sure. We're waiting on Logan Sargent's future, Yuki Tsunoda's future, and a couple other drivers' futures.
Yeah, Guan Yu Zhou, Danny Ricciardo, all sorts of stuff. Sergio Perez.
Yeah.
We're waiting on a lot.
But
Sergio is signed through next year, but we know a lot could change.
That doesn't really matter over the Red Bull.
Doesn't matter. So, but nothing dropped. And then going into this weekend, Haas, I guess, gave us a little bit of something. They re-signed both Nico and Kevin Magnussen. No surprise about Nico. I was a little like, is Kevin going to get re-signed just based off his performance from, the year so far? But yeah, that was our driver updates for the 2024 grid.
Yeah, for the really,
that's it.
Nothing much. And like you said, it was quiet for the whole entire break.
Silly season was crazy last year.
And we still have stuff up in the air, so things are still kind of silly season-esque. And if you don't know what that means, is just usually what it means is that there's a lot of drivers' contracts up for grabs, and you don't know, if they're going to stay in the same team or switch seats, or if new guys are coming in or if former guys are coming in. Yeah. It could be either of the latter.
Yeah. It's last year was all set in motion with Vettel retiring. Obviously opening the seat, Alonso moving, leaving Alpine, going to take over his seat. Then, Oscar Piastri sending out the tweet, the notorious tweet. Then Danny Ricciardo deciding, of course, with McLaren, he's not coming back. It was a hot mess last year. So I think we just expected it. And, it was a chill summer break.
Yeah, it was a chill summer break. But so I think we kind of got to get into it. And I think there is an elephant in the room. I think we got to talk about Daniel a little bit. I think during practice there was an incident, and I'm rocking the hoodie because I'm happy he's back. I'm excited that he's back.
He's been back for what? 2 races?
2 races, and he took a bad crash and held onto the wheel just a touch too long. But I don't know what you would do. I would probably have done the same thing, honestly.
Oscar Piastri took him out again.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep. So if you haven't seen in practice, Oscar Piastri went into the barrier and kind of went a long ways in the track and then in the track line, the racing line for sure. And Daniel was on a hot lap, kind of cruising, and he was kind of close behind him, so it kind of didn't all happen fast enough. I think they were only waving a single yellow at the time. I don't even think a double yellow had come out yet. It definitely wasn't red flagged yet, because they did red flag the race, or the practice, I should say. But
a lot of red flags.
It was.
But whatever, Daniel came through, and it was either he crashes the car or he
Hits.
crashes into Oscar.
Yeah.
So now he did leave his hand on the wheel too long, is what he said, on the steering wheel. And so he ended up breaking one bone in his hand.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his hand or his wrist. I think it was his hand, but it's interesting because, of course, he's just been back. Feel like he was feeling good for the first 2 races, so it was exciting, like what's going to happen. And AlphaTauri was looking good in free practice, so they had some speed. I mean, I think Yuki at the time was like P6 or P8, and Daniel was looking pretty good on his lap. They were looking good on the hards.
I mean, honestly, this whole weekend, it was all up for grabs for anybody in the midfield because it was all weather related. I mean, if you haven't watched the race, it's a wild roller coaster.
Was this the best race of the season so far?
I think from
seeing
P2
a
back,
lot out there of that.
I think P2 back, yes. I mean, for a moment, until it was just team orders on pitting Max first.
We're just like not giving Max any credit anymore for doing a stellar job.
Killed it.
We're like,
it was
okay,
perfect.
it's just expected for Max to win. So even though he drove downright incredible and all the crazy stuff that happened in this race, the rain, the pit stops, the red flags, the craziness, he still, it's Max. It's expected at this point. So
yeah, I think this season is just pure dominance. Now, if you guys also haven't seen, it's Max has won. He has tied the record with Sebastian Vettel. 9. Yep, 9 in a row.
9 in a row.
So
wow.
He's been winning since before it started raining every race.
He's been winning.
He's been winning in the rain.
Winning. I swear to God, I think I said it last time. First of all, the only 2 races that he hasn't won this year was because his team messed something up.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. He might be at 11 at this point. So, I mean, it's pretty incredible. But back to Daniel Ricciardo.
Yes,
so
thank you. Sorry
he
for the
did.
segue.
He did break a bone, so he's out. So now, officially, AlphaTauri has had more drivers this season than they have points.
They do, and they also have reached their driver allotment. So if they need another driver again, they have to call what's his
Nick
DeVries back. Thank you. I don't know why I had a brain fart, but yeah, they got to call him back.
Oh my God, crazy!
Because he's still in the pool of drivers that they can drive.
I would be like, "Who's this new number? I'm busy."
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I don't know. How long do you think Daniel will be out?
I think they're, what Christian said was they're slating for him to be back by Singapore. So I'm like, before Austin.
Yeah. So they put Liam Lawson in.
Yeah. Which he's been rumored to be up for the seat for AlphaTauri for next year, kind of in the swing.
Yeah.
In the contention, shall we say. So it was cool to see it. I would say this was probably one of the most chaotic rookie debuts to have for a race weekend.
So think about that, though. Like, he didn't even get the free practice 1 or free practice 2. He literally came in for free practice 3, which was, if I believe correctly, was wet. Or it was, I can't remember, it was dry or wet, and then
and then qualifying,
and then go right into qualifying, which was totally different weather scenario too.
I mean, yeah. But we have to give him credit because he officially is the only driver that's overtaken Max Verstappen on track without pit stops and the race start since 2022. I think the Austrian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
What?
That's because he was on intermediates at the time, and Max was still on sauce.
It's because he was unlapping himself.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it during the race when it was like those two going, and he's going to unlap himself. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be Ocon and Max Verstappen. What if he would have taken him out? How would that have gone? Liam Lawson, rookie, takes out Max on win number 9 in a row.
Yeah.
On his opening race. Does he beat him up in the paddock?
No,
not?
I don't think so. Not anymore. Not anymore.
But we do have to give him credit. I mean, he finished P13 in his first race, kind of in crazy conditions.
He did get a penalty, though.
He did get a penalty, but he served his penalty during the race.
He did.
And, I mean, he finished ahead of Yuki by contention because he got the 5-second penalty for hitting George.
He did.
Which Crofty and them apparently didn't see take place on the screen.
But the other broadcasters on the other channel, they did see it, and they did comment.
Your boy Alex.
I don't know if it was Alex or...
I think it was, because I remember when we were watching his version that he said it. So, but I was like, how did they not see the debris coming off of George's car? Like, what's going on?
Look, I think Crofty and those guys are right there looking at these multiple screens, way more screens than we have.
I mean, of course.
You know, and so they're seeing things and moving and trying to keep the fast-paced motion of the broadcast going on.
Yeah.
Which they do a good job because we always prefer the international one over F1, even though I do end up watching both.
I prefer Crofty and Martin.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, just my other big call out from the weekend was, my God, the Dutch fans. I mean, it was a party from beginning to end. I feel like this would be a race that would be so much fun to go to. It's a red flag, torrential downpour. They got the DJ going. They got the bass bumping, and they're out there doing dances, getting after it. I'm like, it just looked like a good time.
Yeah, I think that area of the world, they like the nightclub, they like the music scene, they like the dance, and I think they did that well. I think that's something they probably could do here in America that would probably transition pretty well too, especially in like Miami. And I would even say Austin too, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good comment to bring up because I did notice that too. The little flags, and they had them all sectioned
flags, and they've done that every race. I think it's so cool. The main grandstands, they have the flags set up for the, you know, Belgian flag. So, you know, I think it's like 5 or 6 rows of red, 5 or 6 rows of white, and then blue, whatever. And it just looks so cool to see, you know, before the race is getting ready to go, to see all the flags going. I feel like, you know, obviously there's a lot of flags that are 3 different colors that they could do that in, but this is the only place I actually see them do it in.
Yeah, they did it well.
But it's cool. Then, you know, this was a little bit more toned down, and I did see on Twitter in regards to the orange flares that they were really cracking down on the flares coming in, that they were like searching people and all sorts of stuff. I did still see a couple at the end of the race, and then it looked like Red Bull brought some for the celebration.
How do you think some of those guys got them in? Because I'm sure they were searching probably pretty hard. So you think they keistered a couple?
I hope no. I don't even want to think. Okay, like,
whatever it takes.
Maybe they came to the track like a week before and they dug a hole and they buried it, and then they got their flare. I don't know.
That is something too, because they all, you know, the amount of bikes and how many people rode their bikes there. Yeah. You know, it's something that we don't do here in this country very well. We don't commute like that. You wouldn't see that at the Austin GP. You know.
Well, the Austin Grand Prix is in the middle of like nowhere.
Yeah, I mean the best scenario of commuting you're gonna get is probably the Las Vegas race.
I tell you what, I would rather ride my bike to the circuit than take the train in Canada.
I mean, that wasn't that bad though, but I understand.
It was chaos leaving.
Yeah, but you would be miserable. You would have been miserable if we're like riding our bikes and it's just downpouring rain.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
You don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know. You weren't there. You were in Montreal and you saw how it was raining.
I know.
And you know, it was in and out. So
yeah, but okay. Well, anyways,
yeah.
There's so much that happened this weekend, and so I just feel like talking about qualifying.
Yeah, I think most of the practice, the biggest thing we should finish up about practice that we did only mention it is really the Daniel. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest thing that came in practice, and Liam Lawson coming in for only practice 3. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about qualifying.
Yeah.
So, tell me, what did you think about
Williams?
Looking really good.
I mean, my God, yeah. Williams, 2 cars into Q3, the first American in 30 years to get into Q3.
So that car really performs in ideal weather, and I mean, look, Alex was really up there the whole time, and it really was good to see Logan Sargent making it to Q3. But you know,
At the expense of who?
Well, I don't know if it was at the expense of. It definitely wasn't at the expense of Lewis. Lewis, however, did not get in and had a really miserable.
What happened to Mercedes this weekend? By God, they were looking good. Friday post practice. Ooh, the car's feeling fast. We're feeling good. We're feeling groovy. And then it was like Saturday shows up and it was like donkey of the day.
Yeah, I think
Sunday shows up and it's like a double donkey of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on?
Well,
it's stressing me out.
You're right. Well, I think if it's my opinion, Lewis got blocked a bunch during qualifying, and he had a couple of runs that were just miserable. But then he didn't really set himself up for the last lap. He said, he ran it was the second from the last run, and so everyone else's times were coming in better because it was the track is always progressing all the way until the end of the time session.
Well, yeah, because it was rainy in Q1, and then it was like inners, getting close to slicks in Q2, so you don't really know, but everybody's staying on intermediates. But, yeah, I mean, he got blocked three times in Q2, double Aston Martin block, and then obviously, Yuki Tsunoda, he ended up getting the 5-second penalty, but didn't really help him anyways because he qualified lower than Lewis. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like Mercedes did this to George last race, where they sent him out into all this traffic, and same thing, he was out in Q2. So it's like, I'm so used to Mercedes being like this downright strategy, killing it, car amazing. We know the car is not that great, but they're making improvements. But it's like, what's going on with the strategy? What's going on with the pit stops?
If I remember you saying something the other day, you're like, they have a championship mentality.
They do.
They don't have a underdog or a loser mentality, so they're not trying to become the best. They've already been the best for about a decade.
Right.
They reigned supreme for about 8 years, pretty much.
Well, they're 8-time world constructor champions.
Yeah, not in a row though.
In a row. So
in a row, my bad. I
8 times constructors champions.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think they need to dig back down to where they were 2013, kind of getting gritty.
Because they weren't that good before that, right? They were a struggling team before that.
They were, new out of the gates. Red Bull was hot. They were making it happen. Now it's like the tables have turned and they're not thinking, okay, we are an underdog. We're P2 in the constructors. We're feeling good. We're okay. Red Bull's really fast. They got it right. But there's so much other stuff that they could be doing better. I mean, not even to mention the strategy from this weekend, from qualifying, from the race, but like their pit stops are mediocre. There's just a lot of mediocre stuff.
I mean, look, if you look at the fastest pit stops, like the top 10 fastest pit stops of this year, they're all Red Bull.
And McLaren.
And then McLaren.
And McLaren knows, okay, we can undercut Mercedes because our pit stops are better. So it's like, bring in Norris or bring in Piastri, and we're going to end up ahead of their drivers. And then it's going to be a downright challenge. Yeah. Can they overtake the McLarens at this point? So they need to really assess that and think, okay, you know what? We are a winning team, and because they keep saying that. We know how to win championships. We're a championship winning team. But they got to take that off the table, because right now they're not a championship worthy team. And they have the potential. They have 2 really good drivers that are, Lewis he's swinging that shitbox tractor around the track in some of these races, starting basically dead last, after coming out of the pits from a crap strategy to finish in P6. So obviously there's capabilities in the car. The drivers are good. They need to bring everything else together.
Yeah, I think.
Look at me acting like I know better than Mercedes.
You just dropped knowledge for a few moments there, so I'll accept it. I'd like to know what your guys' thoughts are, too, on what you think is going on with Mercedes. Mm-hmm. It's a tough look, and I did appreciate what you said earlier, and I know you probably saw that somewhere or whatever.
I
but
did.
It's a good comment to bring up that they have the wrong mindset, and I think they need to shift gears and realize it's a wake up call here that you guys aren't the biggest dog in the in the park anymore.
Yeah, and it's not like, oh, we're just gonna snap back, because even if the car is there, they got to bring everything.
Yeah.
Red Bull doesn't just have a good car and it's like, oh, everything else is great. If Red Bull had mediocre pit stops and mediocre strategy, I mean, they do have Max.
I mean, no, look.
I think Max can pull a shit box around the track too. So, but you have to deliver it all.
I mean, look, maybe someone can prove me wrong, but if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure for the last a long time, maybe 5 years for sure, Red Bull has had the fastest pit stops.
Oh my God.
Maybe even longer, maybe 10 years. I can't be exact. I forget the exact
They had to
number.
put restrictions on them because they were
so much
fast.
fast. Right. So they've always had the mentality of that. Then for the last, I don't know, probably 5 years, they've had the mentality of being ready hungry for this last year's moment when they brought the new car in, because it was the brand new, era of the new cars.
I mean, they were looking good.
I think they were well prepared. They were more prepared than other teams. And whether you say they abused the budget or not, sure. But they were prepared for this era of car before any other team. They had things figured out before other teams because they came out like a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
And,
they weren't as reliable last year.
No, but they figured that out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And, look what's happening right now,
I mean, my God. It's kind of...
last year we were talking engine penalties for most teams. We
we
haven't even brought that up really.
I was thinking about that.
Exactly.
I'm like, this is crazy that we haven't seen, other than Ferrari, with Charles at the beginning, we haven't seen anybody take an engine penalty. And I feel like Spa is always like, oh, there's 5 drivers, with penalties this weekend, taking a new engine. Is it because they added another engine to the pool this year?
They added the other engine to the pool. And there was a couple. Someone did add an extra motor too. I forget who it was.
Well,
I thought that
Magnussen took a new engine this weekend, and then Charles took a new gearbox. But I think he just took an old one.
Yeah,
because of his crash in qualifying. Sure. So, but no, I mean, we haven't really seen much. Last year, Ferrari, the reliability for them was an issue too. Yeah. The whole season, all the Ferraris. Remember, I was like, all right, so Haas, they had a DNF last weekend, and so Ferrari's going to, it was every weekend a Ferrari-powered car was going to have a DNF, so.
You're right.
I know.
It's just, this year's not been that.
Crazy.
And a lot less crashes too this year.
Yeah.
So.
Which is surprising with the weather.
Yeah.
The
drivers are driving really professionally. I mean, the fact that there wasn't really any carnage this race this weekend, and I know we keep going off topic, guys, because it's just kind of the thing. We're not really here to talk about the exact moments for every single race. We want to talk about bits and pieces of practice, bits and pieces of qualifying, and then the race. But really, we're just talking about the whole thing that we experienced for the weekend and what we know that's going on. And we always want to know what you guys got going on too. So, I think I don't know what really to say about that, anymore.
Yeah, no, I think we've got obviously a handful of races left till the end of the year. I think we'll see some engine penalties. Right? Yeah, I think we'll see some engine penalties.
Yeah.
Be strategic about it, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see any in Monza this next weekend, but probably not. I feel like we've seen them. I feel like I remember 2021 when Bottas would take a new engine every weekend. I remember him taking one in Monza.
Dude, the last few years, it was a lot of engine penalties.
It was.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was crazy. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. But from a reliability standpoint, 2023, the cars have definitely been a lot better. The engines
a lot more
have been
reliable.
So
and, I mean, in Red Bull, for sure.
And it's kept it interesting because there's always, a fight and a gamble in there. With the exception of Alpine having the issues, we've really seen consistency.
But I feel like for the last few weeks, a few races, I mean, granted, we've had a long summer break. They've been fairly reliable at the very end. I mean, there was 2 races, in a row that they were out, both cars?
Double DNFs, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think they figured that out real quick.
Well, they fired the whole team, so it's basically the drivers are just doing everything at this point.
Yeah, so back to qualifying. I think the biggest thing is, and we already kind of mentioned it, was Williams in the Q3 in the top 10. And honestly, the first lap that Logan Sargent put down, in Q3 was not pretty. It wasn't bad. For the first lap, it was pretty good. I think he was probably like sitting like 6 or 7 at the time. But then immediately coming out of that first lap that he did, he crashed and red flagged the whole entire session and was out. So that pretty much put him in 10th. You know, but it was good to see. What else was out there? I think the biggest takeaway from qualifying from another one was Max put down his fastest lap. It wasn't the last person to cross the line. He actually had other people crossing the line that people had to try to beat him. If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, so I think going in, obviously, to Q3, we saw the first, set of laps, and it was pretty tight.
It was.
Norris was on, like, in P1 for a minute. Piastri, we saw, like, some good competition up there, and then he just, was like, all right.
Time for the real lap.
Time to actually do what I'm here to do. Yeah. And, puts it on pole, 0.6 ahead. 0.6 on a track where we thought was going to be close from, like, P1 to P20. You were like, oh, my God, it's so close. And then Max is like, Hold my beer. Watch this.
I mean, honestly, I was watching Sam Collins. He was doing a report on one of his tech talks or whatever, and he had this whole chart, and he was saying these computer projections were saying maybe a 10th, at most 2/10 between first and second. Yeah, and you're right. It was almost 7. It was
6/10.
6 point something. It was 6 something.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on pole again. Norris P2. Russell puts in the last lap. And Albon at the time was P3, which I'm like, holy shit, we're about to see a Williams top 3. But then George comes in and kind of sneak attacks and takes it. So, we had kind of the young bloods, the young stars up at the front. So Norris, Max. I mean, Max is kind of like, I guess, maybe a year or two older than them. But they're all in the crew together.
But he's been in Formula One for a lot longer than that.
Well, he's been in Formula One, it feels like forever. But and we had Albon, and it was kind of mixed up. I think we had 7 teams in the top 10, which was crazy to see.
Yeah.
And, I guess we have to kind of talk about Charles Leclerc. So, he was up there and he ended up binning it on his lap, put it in the wall, and then had to finish watching qualifying in a chair.
That's right. I did forget about that. That was after Logan Sargent's. Yep.
Yeah. So he, whatever. And then I'm like, do they just like not have like scooters or like, is there just no way to pick the drivers up?
I think it's because of the type of the way the track is. Everything's really closed off. And I don't think there's like a pathway along the track for the drivers to walk back or like scooters to get back. I just don't think it's like that. You do see a lot of cranes. So I feel like all they can do is pick the car up and put it over out of the way.
Yeah. I feel like every crash caused a red flag. So yeah. I just feel like there's no like safe areas for the cars to come, kind of tuck off.
Yeah, I would say that's probably pretty true. And honestly, I think it's because, there's just nowhere for them to tuck off. So if you can't make it back to the pits, then they're going to have to get a crane out. So that means personnel out on track. Yep, it is an old track. It's a very old track. Before last year or the year before, they haven't raced there
since 2021. They hadn't raced there since like the 70s, I think.
So it's a really vintage.
And they brought it back for Max.
They did.
I mean, they had to.
Let's be real. I mean, look, it's just like here in the United States. We now have 3 races here. That's because it's so popular. You have to have enough races. Max is making it so popular in the Netherlands because he is a Dutch driver. He's, it's his home. So, it's only fitting that he has Spa. And
I mean, he has. So we have 3 home races in America. Max has 3 home races.
Yeah.
So he's got Spa, Belgium, because I think he's, part whatever.
Yep.
The Netherlands, so the Dutch Grand Prix, and then the Austrian Grand Prix is basically a home race for Max. I think they were saying this weekend the Netherlands is
because it's the Red Bull Ring,
Right. The Netherlands is like the most, I guess, supportive of one driver that you see. Because when you think about Silverstone, there's 3 British drivers on the grid, 4 if you include Albon.
Yeah, but so they're all spread out.
Yeah, and obviously Lewis gets a lot of love, everywhere. So just being who he is. But then it's the second is Austria. You know, there's the Max grandstands. There's orange T-shirts everywhere. And I was thinking, I'm like, and not to get off subject, but do they get those like orange T-shirts when they show up? Did they all buy the same orange T-shirt? Is it for sale at the place? Because I'm like, come on, they're all chose to wear the same damn shirt.
That's a good point.
How did it happen?
I don't know.
Or is it they've just been coming? These are their seats forever. There's got to be something.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm like, team merch is different every year. So I'm like, they all have the Max whatever shirt.
They're all part of the Orange Army, and you get the email saying, I don't know, we're not part of the Orange Army. Maybe there's like an email blog that they send you the shirts.
There's like a secret club.
Well, it's just like, Lando has a merch line, and
well, they all have a merch line. I'm just
but maybe the Orange Army has the merch line, so if you follow them, you just get to up to date.
And if you're like a McLaren fan that goes to the Dutch Grand Prix, you're just like up needle in a haystack. Like you're like lost, like because you just fit in with the Orange Army, and I think that's why Lando always makes a joke. So
yeah, he does always make that joke.
Yeah, but. Okay. I don't even remember we were qualifying. So
well, we kind of got off qualifying, but yeah, we kind of finished that because Max dominate.
On pole.
Yeah.
Max again.
Yep. So I think the big thing is now the race, and we've been here long enough. Thank you guys. If you made this far, we're finally at the race.
Or finally that we made it.
And honestly, that's because how good this weekend is. It wasn't just the race, because the race was really good. You guys should have watched it before you're listening to us talk about it. But I mean, dry all the way up to really the beginning of the formation lap. All the teams are off the grid waiting for the cars to pull away, and all you hear is radio. All of them are saying, rain's coming in 5 minutes. Rain's coming in 4 minutes.
It's raining. It's raining at turn 7. It's raining at turn 10. It's spinning.
Then you hear the driver saying, oh, it's raining. It's raining. It's, yeah. So
should we box? No, stay out.
And I think everybody stayed out.
Everybody stayed out on the formation lap.
On the formation lap for the first lap.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of strange because they kept thinking that it was going to be.
It didn't look on TV like it was raining, though. And then it was like the race started, and I'm like, what the hell? It was like pouring rain. And then everyone's like, okay, what do we do coming around? And, they're all, oh, what's the radar look like?
5 minutes and the rain will stop. It'll stay consistent to this. But, then the drivers were saying, well, consistent, this is a downpour. And it ended up, from not being able to see it on camera from our viewpoint, then to seeing it just raining buckets. Mm-hmm. And I think a couple guys made the right calls. It was 6 drivers in total. It was Sergio Perez. It was Pierre Gasly. Mm-hmm. And I think it was Haas.
That came in first? Yeah. I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, it was 6 drivers, but it was Perez for sure, and I know Gasly for sure, because they got in very quickly.
And started charging through.
Yes. And so that was really the thing. So coming around lap 1, all the talk was drivers coming in, and most of the teams were telling them to stay out. And the ones that made the first call really, I think... Oh,
Charles Leclerc came in first, remember? The tires?
Yeah. He came in. He was one of the 6. But his team, I don't think his team didn't tell him. His team told him no, and he made the call. I think he made the call last minute, and his team was not prepared. And you were making fun of the guy that was holding the tire, the tire up, because he was like... And you're like, he could have some urgency. And I'm like, well, that's an 18-inch tire, racing tire.
Okay, first of all... During the race, I was like standing up because I'm always standing up.
They should have had they should have been more prepared for that.
I mean, so here's the thing. They'll look out. It's raining. Maybe we should have the inners ready. But I don't know.
All they probably heard on the radio is that the main guys are telling them to stay out.
Yeah, I know.
But I agree.
Leclerc was like P9 or whatever at this point. So it's like, okay, so he comes in, he pulls in, tires aren't ready. The dude's walking around like this. Okay, maybe somebody help him. There's 97 people standing around.
No, you can't. They all have their specific jobs, and his specific job
I get it, but it's like,
sucker out.
But here we go. It's like, Jesus Lord, take the wheel, Ferrari again. And I'm like, we always dog on Ferrari. We dogged on Mercedes already. But goddamn, I've been saying it. can Charles Leclerc just have a freaking weekend, okay?
It's hard. He has not had a good weekend.
If he doesn't have a clean race in Monza, I'm burning the city. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he has the long string of bad luck for sure.
I mean,
he didn't have a great week. I mean, look, his weekend was crashing into the wall during qualifying. I mean, granted, he made it to Q3, so you're still in the top 10.
Okay, Q1, they send him out into some BS garbage, some traffic, doesn't have enough time to warm up his tires.
Sure.
He's got to get on the radio and tell his team engineer exactly what to do for Q2, or else we're not going to make it through because we barely squeaked by. Copy. Then crashes in Q3. Then they don't have his tires ready. Then, guess what? His front end plate on his wing falls off, damages his floor, and ruins his damn race.
Yeah.
Not because of contact. Falls off, damages his own car. His car damaged his car.
He's got a lot of bad luck.
Does somebody have a voodoo doll out there for Charles Leclerc?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's a couple drivers that have had some bad luck, and he's definitely at the top of the list.
He's at the top of the list.
Yes.
Number one.
You're right. But granted, that didn't help his for all the 6 teams that drivers that pitted first during the race, he was the worst one that came out of it because of that, and he probably didn't really benefit as much as Perez, because Perez ended up leading the race for a moment.
For a moment.
For a little while, a couple laps.
Yeah.
And it was kind of looking pretty
Until Max was 4 seconds a lap faster. 4 seconds a lap faster.
Well, he was pushing the tires more because that's the thing is when you're in race pace, you're not going as fast as the car can go. You know what I mean?
Equal cars, 4 seconds a lap.
He's not pushing. Sergio was not pushing the tires as hard. He was pushing them to last longer. And I don't know why he did that.
Well,
he probably should have pushed them to go faster. And
they thought there was going to be rain again, so they were like, "We got to look after these inners." They tell Max that on the radio too.
Sure, they did, and they told him to slow down or check his pace or whatever it was they said to him too. I know that. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, Sergio did lead the race.
He did lead the race, and I thought maybe
at one point George was leading the race too.
There was a moment, but it's
on his slicks. Until he got curb stomped.
Yeah, he got. So that's the thing is the 6 cars that pitted got the intermediates first were definitely able to pass everybody, and even coming around for the 3rd lap, not all the rest of the teams they didn't pit either. A couple more came in, but not very many. And then there was people like Lando and Lewis and Russell and who else stayed out there forever? Alex Albon stayed out.
Yeah, there was like Stroll. Remember he was on the radio.
Yeah. And they kept telling him stay out because it ain't gonna get any worse.
Magnussen, Hulkenberg was one. Magnussen came in, but yeah.
I think that's where those scenarios are where it's for the team to listen to the driver. Because, they see the radar, and it only is this much of a cell, and it only lasts for that long, and then it's out of there. But the drivers know the slickiness, like how the road is gripping right now in that condition, and they knew that they probably weren't going to be able to keep a slick tire up to temperature. And, I mean, it was pretty impressive that the ones that stayed out on the slicks for as long as they did, especially, wasn't it Alex Albon that stayed out for like 46 laps?
45 laps.
45 laps,
not only in the rain, but on a set of softs.
I
was like, is this tire going to blow? What's happening?
He was very delicate on those tires.
He's the tire whisperer.
Well, this year's tire whisperer, apparently, because he used to be Sergio.
He was last year, too.
Yeah, okay. All right. But yeah, it was just funny because like the teams that were on the slicks, they were just getting swallowed past left and right. And you could hear the radio talk that they were saying, the teams were saying, oh, don't worry, you're going to get them back when they have to pit 4 slicks. Yeah,
like Lando. Lando was like, don't worry, we're faster on the slicks than they are on the inners. And he's like, what? And then some expletives, bleep, bleep. And then I'm pretty sure he told himself to box. He said
Lando box. And he goes box.
And he comes in. So, yes, that was interesting. We got some interesting team radio this weekend.
We had a lot of interesting team radio. And I suggest you guys go watch those specific things, too, because those are really,
well, they did the special this weekend on the rain, so that was kind of nice. But, so you either won or you lost with the first pit stop with the first rain. Then it was like after that, it was like kind of boring.
It kind of mellowed out because everything started drying out again, and then you started seeing, all right, now it's time to pit.
You know why we saw it, right? It was because Alex Albon, who was still on softs, started turning on his tires, and it was like, oh shit, the softs are like firing up.
Back again,
So then we started pitting.
So then, what does Red Bull do? Instead of pitting the driver that's in the lead, they pit Max first. And I know I said something. I think you said it too. Was like, well, what's going on with that? That seems. You're like, Max.
Normally, the driver that's in the lead gets the advantage.
Right, and then so the question is, then you hear the radio from Sergio going,
"Did Max undercut us?"
Yeah, because he did undercut them, and they did that strategic. Like literally, the very next lap, they pitted Sergio, and he came out, and Max was just right past him. I don't know. That team has some weird orders. Granted, they probably wanted to give all benefit to Max to win this race because he wants the 9. They're probably going for 10 so they can set the record for 10 or whatever it's going to be by the time we're done this season, because this season is going to be a long one. By the time we got what? 9 more races? He could win.
Ferrari's winning this weekend.
I hope so. We have to manifest that. Although this is the best chance next weekend in Monza for Williams, because their type of car, the way their car is designed, they think that this is the best chance for them to have the best.
I don't know if Williams is going to stop Max Verstappen.
I don't think so either, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, back to the race. So as things started drying out, we saw the first round pit stops. We saw Max undercut Sergio back for the lead, and then he was pretty much gone for the rest of the time.
Yep.
And then there was a little bit of talk of possible rain coming again. You could see some storms. They were talking about it, showing themselves. And then it kind of held off almost to the very end of the race.
Yeah.
I think it was like lap
65,
Yeah.
64. Yeah. So it starts raining again. My God. So, and it was like, the rain is going to be really heavy. Massive. And so, people are coming
Torrential.
in. Ocon goes on to the wets. He's the only one, and he's like, oh, this is a huge mistake. First of all, why do they even bring the wet tires? They never even use them. Okay? We never even race when it's wet.
In fact, a couple people went on them. They all ended up going on them.
Well, Max ended up going on them, but then it was like, just kidding, we're done. And so it's...
Because he got red flagged.
Yeah, it got red flagged because of the rain. But I'm just saying, okay? We never use the wet tires in a race.
So...
Maybe Spa 21, but we never even did anything, so...
Yeah.
So anyways, everybody's coming in. Max is back out. Perez comes in. He gets, obviously his wet tires, and then they red flag it. He's stuck in the pit lane, but then, of course, they run it back a lap. But we see... I would say a good 4 or 5 cars go off at turn 1. So
Absolutely.
We saw Valtteri go off. Then we saw
Sergio went off too.
Sergio went off. He clipped the freaking barrier coming into the pit lane to get his wet tires after he had crashed. So, there was a lot of chaos. Lewis went off. Somebody else, I think one of the AlphaTauris. So, yes, it was the right call to red flag it. I think I was kind of surprised that they actually restarted the race, but...
They restarted it, though, under a safety car.
They did, but I also was like, maybe, it felt like we were kind of running for a long time, but there was like an hour left, they said, like an hour and a half to finish the 7 laps. So they were good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they finished under a rolling start. Not your favorite.
Not so much, just because the advantage that usually the first place has, especially on a Grand Prix track, it's different than like an oval, like at the Indy 500. Where there's a lot less advantage.
Well, you can't be side by side either. So,
right. So that's all. But other safety issue is that's more concerning to me. So they did the right call, I think. It's just Max was so fast. He was already a second ahead, by the end of the lap.
No.
Two laps after, he was over a second away. So by the time they opened DRS again. DRS, didn't they?
No, they never did, because remember Lewis was chasing Carlos down, and he was like, all I needed was DRS.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So they didn't open it back up, but Alonso was quick. Now, we have to also talk about Alonso when it did start raining again, and he came in for those inners from slicks. They totally destroyed his pit stop. I don't know what the hell happened with that. but he was downright on one when he came out of the pits, chased down past, like, I think it was Yuki at the time because they didn't pit him. Then he got Carlos. Then he was just, he was flying.
So you mentioned a lot of passes and stuff. I believe that this was the most passes
in F1 history.
Yeah.
In F1 history.
That's pretty incredible. So it was
on a track that they don't pass on.
You kept hearing that this was going to be a procession, essentially, but no, it was really good. Other than really Max kind of taking the lead and running away with it for the most part and really had solid control the whole weekend. Really, he is in a league of his own right now, and he's in the prime. He's the best driver out there.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
He's in the best car. It is unbelievable. But everybody behind him, it's a toss up. I mean,
it is fun.
It was a complete toss up on who was going to get second or third, and honestly, because of the penalty that
Sergio got,
he would have got third, but he got fourth or fifth because of it. I think it was.
It was fourth.
Fourth, yeah, because
Carlos was fifth and Lewis was sixth.
Yeah.
Norris was like right there.
Yeah, there
almost got Lewis on the line.
Yeah, all under a second there. Those last few. So it was a really action-packed whole entire race, down to the wire. Like you said, the little middle part that got a little boring as it started drying out. And honestly, if it was a whole dry weekend, maybe it would have been a really boring weekend. So I think the weather made it.
The weather made it, but I will tell you, I feel like there was some times, and I won't give them shit for it too much, but the start of the race, there was rain, and it was chaotic and what was happening, and we chose to literally replay all the race starts and just overshadow what was happening in the first opening couple laps on F1 TV. But I feel like we missed a lot of the midfield battles when it was important, and then we had to catch them on the replay.
I think they missed a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing the broadcast is kind of missing, is that they are missing a lot of the key battles that are happening. And granted, there's hundreds of cameras,
right,
and there's multiple broadcasts across all around the world. So I understand that I'm preaching to the choir here, but I feel like they have been missing a bunch. And the reruns, the replay of the start this weekend was really obnoxious because at that time there was people talking about pit stop. I would rather hear all the chaos on the radios and you cutting between people in the pit stop and the cars instead of doing the replay, because the replay of the start this week in particular it was clean.
Yeah, it was.
Everybody got through it because they knew as they were coming around, all the drivers were dealing with the radio talk about weather. So they were extremely cautious. Mm-hmm. Everyone across the board, there was no damage, no nothing.
It felt almost like there was an accident that they didn't want to tell us about, that is the driver safe or not? And then they were replaying all of that to cover the footage.
And sure.
But I was like, oh my God, we're missing what's going on in the race.
And it was bad. And that was the international broadcast for sure. And I would agree with that. And that is a pretty big takeaway, I guess, of the weekend of that coverage. And it has kind of been like that multiple weekends, But yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. I think
we're excited.
I think Max dominated. I think we're really close to Max being able to claim the outright title. 2 more races? Something like that.
I don't even know. I mean, just give it to him already. God damn it.
Luckily, this week back, none of the trophies were broken.
No, but the trophy was as tall as Max. I'm like, I have never seen a trophy so big. And Zandvoort or the Dutch Grand Prix, in the 3 years since it's been back, has had a different style trophy every year.
They've had a different one, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so this year, it looked like Harry Potter. Like Gryffindor.
The Goblet of Fire or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So, but when he held it up, I mean, it was the biggest trophy I think I've ever seen. So.
I mean, there are hundreds of, not hundreds of thousands, but tens of thousands of dollars.
I know, but, well, we know how much the Hungarian one was.
Which just got fixed. We just saw.
It did get fixed.
We saw Max got it back.
Don't let Lando touch it.
That's right. So we did see that. But yeah, I mean, I think personally, there's been, I think, maybe one other weekend that's been really, really good.
The Australian Grand Prix was really good. But
I think this one really kind of takes the cake, because it was kind of on the edge of our seats the whole entire time. And now I unfortunately had to work that day and couldn't sit and watch the whole thing. I had to get and go. And it was,
He missed the last the sprint race at the end.
Yeah, because I had to go. But yeah, I was able to rewatch it. But yeah, it was up there to being one of the top ones definitely of the year, because this year's kind of been a weird year. It's been more the midfield of what's happening. But yeah, if you guys have made it this far, guys, thank you very much. We want to know what you guys think of the race. What you guys think? Was it your favorite of the season? Was it your favorite? Yeah. Who was the driver of your day? That's one other thing I didn't ask you.
Oh, I already said Alonso. Okay. Down. Well, I didn't say it here, but I said it. I'm like, Alonso hands down. I'm like, it was impressive. Lap 1, we didn't even talk about with Alonso.
No.
Overtaken on turn 3, the bank turn. Mm-hmm. A lot of good stuff.
He did a couple of overtakes that were really, yeah.
He had some really good overtakes. And then having that botched pit stop of almost like 10 seconds. I think it was 9 seconds almost. And coming out, and he got fastest lap of the day. He was lying. So, yeah, Alonso.
And who was F1's driver there? Was it?
It was Alonso.
Okay. So you were with F1 then.
I was.
I guess mine was probably Max. I'm going to give it to Max. He was pretty stellar and fast. And I didn't see any mistakes compared to some of the other drivers. He kept it on track the entire time. Yeah.
I think it was Alonso, then Max, and then obviously Pierre, which we didn't even talk about. Ended on the podium.
I mean, look, the big thing we talked about was he made the right decision to come in, and the guys that made the right decision early on, even look at Perez would have been third without the penalty, because he sped because he was out of control, and that's why he hit the wall and came in, crossed that line fast. But
he was stressed and under pressure because he's like, damn it.
Absolutely. So I think all the guys that made the really early call early on in the race to get to those intermediates after the first lap, they benefited.
Yeah, he was able to hold on. He didn't let Sergio and a Red Bull run away with it. So he, stayed close enough to be within that 5-second range.
And I know he was pulling away from Lewis and Lando when they were all in that little battle back there. Like he was in his own world. There was a couple, I think 3 seconds or whatever between him and that gap. So yeah, he did have a really good weekend and a really good race, and he was well deserved because I think he knew that he was within that 5-second gap, and when his team told him, he was super happy about it.
Now I will say we're going to Monza next.
Yes.
Max is up to break Sebastian Vettel's record.
Yes.
But is the Monza curse gonna strike?
Because he hasn't finished there yet, right? Is that
No. So since 2019, when Charles Leclerc won, he wins in Monza.
Yeah.
Every driver that wins DNFs the next year. So remember 2020, Pierre won, DNF'd in 2021.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. 2021, Danny Ricciardo. 2022, he DNF'd. So Max won last year. So is he going to DNF this year?
I don't know.
Statistically speaking,
he might. Okay, so is this weekend
Is it a record-breaking?
Is it a sprint race too or no?
No.
When is the next sprint race? Austin?
I think Austin and then Brazil and Qatar.
It is Austin then. So is it in 1 week? Is it already about to be race week?
It's race week again.
Yeah. So these last 9 races are going to be back-to-back. Pretty much there's going to be a 1 week gap, I think, here and there. But other than that, it's an all-out sprint until the end, I think, mid-November, early November. Early mid-November. And it's all over. So we're only got a couple months left. It's down to you can count the weeks left in racing.
Don't say that. You're going to make everybody sad.
I know. You're right. But I guess you got anything else for us?
I think that's it.
I think we pretty much said it all. If you've listened to this, you guys are rock stars. That was fun. We appreciate it. It was a good race. You should watch the race. We are planning a little something for Vegas, and I will let you guys know. However, most of the people that watch this are all over the world, so if you can't make it to Michigan, we completely understand. Other than that, thank you guys. We'll see you guys.
We'll see you soon.
Real soon. All right, that's it. See ya.